Back to our fourth session of the day for the assistive technology strand. And we're about to start supporting virtual learning for students with autism and other developmental disabilities with the fantastic Teresa Robinson. And if you guys didn't know, Teresa is an assistive technology regional specialist with us here at Louisiana AIM and works out of Webster Parish, serving North Louisiana. She is a certified special education teacher with over 15 years of experience with working with students with disabilities. And right before I hand it over to Teresa, you may have noticed every time we start a session, we want to know who is attending, who's our audience is, so we can make a even better conference next time. And Teresa will be able to see these results and know the types of people who are attending this session right now and kind of cater to them. So we want to know if you're a paraprofessional, a parent, an advocate, special education, any type of related service. Just take a moment and click and let us know. And once I end the polling very shortly, I'll share out the results so we can all see it. And remember, at any time you want to have the poll removed from your screen, all you have to do is click that X and it will disappear. And just a reminder, if you're joining us for the first time, you will get directions at the end of the session on how to get those sweet, sweet CLUs if you need them. Now I'm ending the poll and I'm going to share the results. And Teresa, you can take it away.
All right, thank you. I need Justin to follow me around everywhere to introduce me because it's a big smile on my face, that's for sure. I am so excited to see special ed teachers in this session. We've seen a lot of SLPs throughout the last 2 days, and I was hoping that my special ed teachers would hop on for this session, that's for sure. So today we're going to talk about supporting virtual learning. It's kind of been a new thing for all of us and kind of creating it as we go. But I hope these supports and resources will help you feel a little bit more better about getting your kids on track and staying there. So today's objectives, we're just going to kind of go over the benefits and challenges of distant learning. I think it's a conversation that we didn't have last year around this time because COVID wasn't here and we were doing face-to-face and rolling along. But lately, since we've been switching our delivery to instruction virtually, I think that's just something that we're going to discuss and support from now on. Who knows? The second thing that we're going to do is discuss the value of providing the face-to-face instruction. With that, it's also called synchronous instruction. Not only we want to get away from just putting a link in Google Classroom and having the student click on it, but we want to view the student, have the student view us as well, and have that interaction between the teacher, the student, and parent or caregiver if those are the people that are helping the students at home. And lastly, we want to give you some free resources and materials to support all of this remote learning. We'll also want to give this support to families so they can help do this instruction at home as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is kind of talk about the mindset of challenges when we think about students at home mastering material. On that, I think in the realm of things, it's, oh no, we can't do this at home. They have to be in the classroom. They're not able to learn without me sitting beside them, or they have to have that pair beside them. And hopefully maybe in the past few months, we found that this is not always true, that they can learn. And we're just coming up with some creative ways, even though it's been challenging. But I think our teachers and our students are learning through virtual classrooms and virtual lessons. I want to show you some ways that that's going to be a little bit more positive. The next thing is faith. So with that free, appropriate public education, how do we do that remotely? How are we making all of those ends meet? And we're going to talk about that instead of maybe just, oh, let's create it as we go. Some solutions that I want to talk about is And a few slides later, I'll show you several ways that we can provide instruction while the kids are at home. And the main component I want to talk about today is live instruction from a special ed teacher, so that that child is still getting those minutes that they deserve, the minutes that are in their IEP. We're still going to talk about their goals and objectives, and I guess not just a worksheet or something to send home for them to do on their own. The second thing that we haven't really done in the past is provide parent training, and I think that's really crucial right now. So combining that instruction with parent training, I think is going to be meaningful to parents, especially because everyone's so busy and stressed. And I think if we kind of lower that stress level on the parent with the child learning, that can make it a little bit more successful. Although virtual instruction is not as good as going to school every single day, we definitely want our kids in our classroom. We want that interaction. We want to touch them, feel them, talk to them, all of that kind of stuff. I think that if we just go past the minimum of sending that worksheet home, then we can have success with our students. So the next thing I want to talk about, in order to do all of those things, I want to look at what district obligations are. So what I did is I went to the United States Department of Education and I pulled this little blurb about FAPE. So what they're basically saying is, no matter what's going on in the classroom, at home, or during this time, during the world, that we still have to provide. We still have to teach, because that cannot stop no matter what's going on. Also with this, it's all, I like the quote in here, it said related services as well. So it's not just the curriculum part, but those related services that provide minutes through the IEP, that all of that has to continue, whether that be during distant instruction, if it's virtually or over the phone, or however that's going to meet that child's needs to continue with what's in their IEP. On the bottom here, I did put a link to the U.S. Department of Education. We can look at that really quick. This is just kind of a resource that you could share with your parents, with your teachers, the use of technology in teaching and learning. When I was reading through this, and you can go back and read through that later to get what you need out of it, but I know a word that we haven't really been talking about was this blended learning. That's how we're going to incorporate the face-to-face and online opportunities all together. Because when I originally set out to do this webinar, everyone was at home, and so I designed it like that. But kind of now, some of my districts are at home, some of them are face-to-face, some of them are back full-time, some of them are back hybrid. So all together, I hope this helps kind of mesh all of those things together to see what best fits your needs at your school. Let me go back. Okay, so once I looked at that, then I kind of put a guidance for school districts together, and I broke it up into 3 different categories. So the main one that we haven't really done in the past is support those parents at home. Now, I know that I've had those parents that asked me to send worksheets home, or, we need to do something at night, or is there a video or a link or something, but it wasn't as far as maintaining what they already knew or actually learning something more. So now I want us to get together and provide free resources for this virtual supports and tools to help the families with routines, challenging behaviors, and the training components kind of to like mesh all those things together. So on this first one, and we are AIM, we're the one putting on this conference. I'm sure you already know that, but I also wanted to give you our link to just show you to see if you knew that we had some extra stuff here too. At the top, so I went to our website. This is me right here, even though I don't have my camera on. You go up here to resources. We have 2 dashes for resources. One is for parents. I'm going to look at that really quick. And so these were resources that we put together to help parents during this at-home or virtual distant learning. There's lots of words we describe it now. So I wanted to let you know that this is a great resource to PDF or email that to a parent. The one underneath it is professionals for our teachers. This is also a great reference list. It also goes into the guidebooks, accessibility tools. So just wanted to let you know that this is all found on our website if this is something that you would like to share with your parents. All right, also, if you come over here, we have COVID-19 resources because again, but not that this is a COVID-19 webinar because it's not, it's just the day and time of what's happened during the COVID-19 that it has us doing virtual learning. And hopefully even past the COVID-19, we're going to continue this virtual learning, whether there is a hurricane, whether the kid is out sick, or if our kid has surgery or anything else that sometimes that our special needs babies stay out for a long distance, a period of time, and we want to give them those resources there too. So I just wanted to show you that these were our resources that you could go to as well during COVID-19, and that is all found on our website. Okay, the second thing that I wanted to put up was the LDOE. If you were listening to Josh's webinar earlier, a lot of my material kind of meshes with his. This is just from the LDOE website. If you scroll down to the bottom, which, oh, sorry about that one, let me, there's a family toolbox, ways to support students with disabilities during this school closure. So I won't read through this, but I just want you to know that this is here for you for your reference, and that is from the LDOE. The second link that I really like on here is also virtual small group instructions for students with disabilities. So this was a nice resource too that I was reading through, and it talks about FERPA and the things that can be done to make all of those laws be abided by during our small group time. Get out of that. Okay, so the next category that I kind of broke it down to was the reduced loss of skill. So I know when I was a special ed teacher, that was always kind of like a summer thing too. Oh gosh, I don't want them to forget anything of the summer. What can I give them over the summer, whether it be worksheets or videos or links, or what can I stick in their Google Classroom to keep that going? Well, this is kind of the same thing. With the loss, to reduce the loss of skill, we want to provide instructorless learning. In other words, I'm not going to give them stuff that it is new or the parent would have to learn and then the parent would have to teach. So it's something that they've done already and that they did it independently. We just want to focus on not losing any skills. So the next one, we want to ensure FATE. So on that, we want to provide the remote learning, which is that face-to-face with the new skills. And most importantly, during this virtual time, we want to meet all of their IEP goals and objectives. So we can progress monitor those and show success in those areas as well. Okay. So in order to do all of that good stuff, we must continue to use evidence-based practices. Most of you have probably heard about the National Standards Report, and if not, that's okay. I have links for that too. These reports are kind of broken down into two phases. We look at these reports to actually identify strategies that will be used to teach in the classroom, and all of that can be found in the phase 1. And in the phase 2, the 14 established treatments can be found. Also in this, I linked this book if this is something that you're interested in to go back for a reference. It is 164 pages. You might not want to print all of that out, but it's definitely a great resource. It is a great tool to give to teachers. I just kind of wanted you to know that this is there, and I'll link to all of this here for you as well. So within this, we're going to look at phase 2, the National Standards Project for phase 2. So these are the 14 established treatments. The ones that I have bolded are identified as what I feel like we can continue using through virtual learning. So that first one is definitely, and I'm sure we've all done this in our classroom, is the Applied Behavior Analysis Method, the ABA. I think we're familiar with that. The next one is going to be the pivotal response training. This is going to teach kids to use expressive language, spontaneous language, maybe even some play skills through evidence-based strategies. So I feel like we can still do that from home. The next one is schedules, for sure. We're going to talk about a lot of schedules, and I'm going to give you examples of those too, whether it be a morning schedule, an evening schedule, or just something at the house that they do on a regular basis. The next one is language training. This is modeling a verbalization for a student that's going to imitate what you're saying. The next one is self-management. Again, that's, I think, is our number one focus no matter what we do, is independence. At the end of the day, at the end of graduation, that is our main goal, is independence for these students. The next one is modeling. Definitely want to do this on teaching new behavior, and with modeling, I'm going to kind of talk about having a video reference for that too. So we're not just going to say we're going to pick up the toys and put it in the basket, but we're going to have some video modeling for them to look at as well. The next one, or number 7, is the naturalist teaching strategies. Kids are the child directed teaching functional skills. So we're going to talk about that. I'll have some examples there too. And the last one, I keep saying it again, I don't think we did it enough in the past because we didn't have to, and that is parent training. So this is the one that's just going to remind us that the evidence-based practices is going to help us in all of these realms during virtual learning, sorry about that, and we can keep doing these evidence-based practices. Go to my next slide. Okay, so again, this is just the way I kind of broke it down into 3 different categories, and then we're going to talk about each one. So the first one, we're going to talk about how we're going to support those parents. So as teachers, a lot of times we already have those visual supports and materials, and we've gone to webinars kind of like you're doing now, but our parents haven't done that. Because in our classroom, we think a if-then statement or an if-then token tool or economy in our classroom, that's just something natural for us to do. But not a whole lot of times is that done at home with the parents. So we want to talk them through that and give them those resources. Also, kind of want to focus on whatever the child is doing already at home. Because like when they came to school, it would be like, okay, my procedure in my classroom is to walk in my classroom, take your backpack off, go to the restroom, wash your hands, go to the desk. Well, that might not be what's happening at home. So at home, when we're talking about their routines, they may go for a walk in the morning before we sit down and do virtual learning, or vice versa. Maybe they wake up, have breakfast, then virtual learning. Or it could be virtual learning is not happening till after lunch when the parent has done their work for the day and then has the time to sit down with the student to guide them through that virtual learning. The next one is going to be that instructorless learning. The only thing that I could come up with this to support parents that would be easy for teachers to get together are some home packets for independent work. And I'm going to show you through that. I used Unique Curriculum when I came up with some tools to show you today. And the last room is that definite face-to-face training with a special ed teacher. So with that special ed teacher is going to develop her teaching styles or resources to meet the IEP goals and develop those new skills. Also, during that synchronous remote learning with that teacher, this is when it's going to be scaffolded, it's going to be individualized, it's going to be for a specific child's need. And I keep going back, instead of having Google Classroom and just putting a link to a worksheet or a book or something like that, that is for everyone in the classroom. Because you and I both know that that's not an individual plan for instruction. So we're going to talk about that as well. All right, so let me go to the next slide. Okay. On synchronous remote learning, I divided this up into 3 different strands. So here's a system that teachers can use during synchronous remote learning to individualize the type of teaching their students need. So I divided them up into 3 strands and kind of 3 different abilities that the student is currently working on, and kind of like strands to identify how the child can access virtual learning, if you will. So on strand A, to describe strand A, I would say the student, they might be at the beginning level. struggling to access virtual learning and direct instruction through the computer. So this child might not have the attention at all to sit down and listen to even a 10-minute or a 30-minute training. So that might be where the instruction is going to come through the parent. So at that point, the parent would be providing the instruction and the teacher will be providing live coaching kind of in the background during that virtual learning. On strand B, the students can do a combination of direct instruction through the computer with the teacher, but might not be able to hold their attention the whole time. So a lot of instruction will still come from the parent while the teacher is coaching. So it's just kind of that middle ground. To me, what I think about in my classroom is kind of like that student that might have to have the para sitting beside them more than 50% of the time to keep them motivated, to keep them engaged, and then you went from there. So strand C, that's our almost an independent student. They can access direct instruction virtually. They can attend, they can sit, and they can look at the computer, look at the camera, maybe even talk into the microphone, respond from cues from the teacher. So that's just kind of the way that I split those three up. Okay. All right, here I'm going to show a video. I'm going to show lots of video examples of different types of learners, and what synchronous remote learning might look like. The first video example is a student that is in preschool, and he would be under strand A. He cannot access direct instruction through the instructor. So instead, the instructor is coaching the parent to provide that instruction. So I'm going to play the video, and then we're going to talk about that after. Here we go.
So try saying, instead of saying can you, just hold it out in front of him and say, just do this and model it for him. If he doesn't do it, go ahead and imitate again and help him to follow your command, okay? You're doing great. We can try and pull them out of his reach a little bit. As soon as he imitates you, that's when you're going to reinforce him and give him all those blocks back. Putting on. Good job. Now give him a couple of seconds to play however he wants now. That was perfect. We'll try that a couple more times. And he's learning now. He's stacking them. Good. As he stacks them, one really good strategy you can try is as he's stacking it, label what he's doing. So you can say stacking block or putting block together, or you might even just say red block or blue block, just to get him to hear some of that language. Perfect, Nicole. Perfect.
Okay. So you can see that that student is working on beginning play skill and maybe some imitation. The amazing part of this is that typically the teacher would be doing this strategy in the classroom, and then it might be left in the classroom when they move on to a different task or somewhere else. But the teacher has provided this instruction and coaching to the parent, and the mom might end up doing this later in the day or all day or whenever. So she's just going to reinforce it even more besides just that allotted time during class periods. So now I want to show you a student at a different level. This is a strand B student. The student can access some direct instruction from the teacher, but needs some support from the parent. This is a secondary student. They are doing some similar things such as greeting or morning meetings or something like that. So let's check this one out. This guy makes me smile.
2, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Nice counting, okay? So it's March 30th, 2020.
Nice job, Hunter. Oh, really? Great job. What's the weather like? Rain. Is it raining? Cloudy? Oh. Look out the window. Wow. Ready to
Sun.
Pretty sunny. That's right. It's right. Yeah. Let's see. I'm guessing it's sunny. Is it sunny? Yeah. Good job, Hunter. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about sports. Do you like to play sports?
Yes.
What do you like to play?
Baseball.
You like to play baseball? What else do you like to play?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Tennis ball.
So there is a tennis ball. Do you like to run?
Yes.
Nice job, Hunter. Could you ask me about sports? Does Miss Peters like sports?
Yes.
Ask me, Miss Peters.
Do you like
Sports.
sports?
Miss Peters does like sports. I like softball. Thanks for asking, Hunter. Nice job. So which one do you want to listen to? We can listen. Okay, in this video, you can see that she's working on counting, social skills, conversation skills that are a part of his IEP goal. Also, I don't know if you kind of noticed beside him, she wasn't always in the video, but that strand B is going to have that little support next to them. So if you could kind of see her face in and out, maybe just kind of showing him to gear back to the computer or listen to the teacher. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you an example of strand C student. This student can engage in direct instruction with the teachers. You will see that the parent is just kind of in the background watching to keep the student engaged in the computer and support any behavior issues that may come up. You'll see that the student is really able to engage. Strand A and B students are usually done in 1-to-1 sessions, but strand C students can be done in a group of 3 to 5, but in this video, it is just going to be one-on-one.
Here's the first one. You ready? Point to the one that drives on the road. What does it call you? It does drive on the road. Nice job. Give yourself a star. Awesome working. I think we only have a couple more. All right, you ready? Point to the one that flies in the air. Which one? Point to the one that flies in the air. What does an airplane do? It flies. Very good. Give me a high five. Good job. And give yourself a star. Nice working. And Mom is going to tell me when we've earned all of the stars, okay? All right.
All right, so let's go to this next one. So in this video, we want to keep it fun. We want to keep the kids engaged. And I was looking all around the internet for the best video to see if what teachers are doing. And this one just cracked me up completely. But my suggestions are you could do songs, magic trick jokes, science experiments, anything to keep it fun. But I want to show you how this teacher is keeping it fun.
Corn, cob. Do those rhyme? Corn, cob. Oh no, those don't have the same ending sound. 2 thumbs down. No. All right, what about these words? Right, bite. Listen carefully. Do they sound the same at the end? Right, bite. They do. Buckle yourself into the rhyming roller coaster. Right and bite. We're gonna go up, 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 all the way to the tippy top, and we're gonna say right and bite. They rhyme. Whoa, and I'm gonna come whoop back to a stop. Right and bite do rhyme.
So how many of you knew that Rhyme and Words would be that fun? Because I went on that roller coaster ride every time I watched that video. So just something to keep it fun, keep the kids interested. All right, so we're going to keep going on to tips for technology. So I just kind of broke these down a little bit. There's several different platforms. Not everyone is using Google, not everyone is using Zoom or anything else, but the main thing, it's kind of like even with this conference, was learning the platform before you do them. And it's practice, practice, practice. And we even learned that through this conference that we reached out to each one of our presenters to say, hey, let's practice on Zoom. How's your camera? How's your microphone? Are your speakers okay? Do you know how to share? Do you know how to not share? Do you want your video to come up? Do you want your face to show? Do you not? So it's during those things, just before you do it or before your teachers do, just practice. And you can even practice on each other. You can send each other a Google Meet or a Zoom and see how that's going to work out between you two to see which one you even like. So just put some links there if you wanted to look back at those. Those are just the two main ones that is being used right now, but by all means, that's not just all of them. The next one is definitely testing the equipment. With this being said, this is something else that we did even with this conference with our presenters. How are things working? How are they not working? Are you liking, because on my end right now, I do not have a microphone on my face. My camera has a microphone built in it, and I like that better than having a headset with a mouthpiece. Now, some other people might want that headset and a mouthpiece because that's what works better for them. So testing that equipment out, seeing kind of what you like, what works best for you, is just another technology tip. I also put 2 supports there for Zoom and Google if that's something that you're interested in as well. All right, so what happens when nothing works right? When we always have technical difficulties. I even had these in my classroom. I'd have this super cool thing that I wanted to put on my board, my interactive board, and the internet went out, or my board just wasn't working, or the app wasn't up that day. So just having a backup plan as to if you had a meeting set and then that child's excited about it, their parent is excited about it, and then something doesn't happen. What is that backup plan? Could it be a video that you had pre-recorded and then just sent through an email? Could there be some extra links or resources if your end didn't work, but then theirs did, or vice versa? And maybe that's where that home packet could come in as well, especially if we're having our students in that routine and they know at 9 o'clock we're sitting down and then something doesn't happen on that computer. What are we still going to do to have them engaged during that time period? And the last one I kind of came up with is just connections with families. So I know if I wasn't in education and someone said, by the way, you're teaching your child at home, and I hope you know Google, I hope you know Zoom, I hope you know Google Classroom, I hope you know all these good things, because that's how I'm teaching your child, and you got to help them do that too. So just making that connection with the families and letting them know that you understand if they're nervous, if they don't know anything about technology, because that's the number one thing I hear from parents is, I know nothing about technology. And even if we just start simple, make that connection, and we'll just let them know that they're not going to fail at anything that they do, that we're going to support them from the basics to turning on a Chromebook or a computer all the way to doing our virtual learning with them. And the goal, I guess, overall is just to keep it easy and create those positive connections. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is synchronous remote learning. Now that I'm done with synchronous remote learning, I want to talk about instructorless learning. So this is where I think we've kind of done this in the past. This is where those packets come in handy. But the packets that we send home, they still have to align with our IEP goals. So I got this from Unique Learning System. This is just a book and a worksheet that are together. This can be printed with the symbols, without the symbols. But if we were talking about science in the month of October and we want to talk about push-pull, then these are some things that I would put together. So if either way, you could print them and send them home, or if they needed to be downloaded online for the student to access them, either way. I know some parents too, I don't know about your school system, didn't even want to drive up to the school to get the packets, but those could also be mailed to their address if that worked out for them better. So this one is actually for like a beginning level. But if you even had a student that couldn't access the worksheets, maybe that's just a book that you would send home if the parent wanted to read that same book to them. That's the theme base for whatever your IEP goals are for that month that you want to achieve. And so the next slide is just kind of fun. So, because I thought about October. It's a fun example of theme-based packet. So I found a Halloween book. I also, again, used Unique Learning System here. You can use whatever that your school is wanting you to use for your curriculum. This is just one I chose for today. So I have the book, and I also have the communication board with it. This is also something if you wanted to print or laminate or send home, whether it is the teacher or the SLP, if you're supporting some language, and these are some words that you want to support for the month of October, then maybe this is something that you would want to send home to build the language with that core board and also read that book to the student as well. Okay. All right, so here is provide families with practical resources. So in all of it, we definitely want to make it easy for our parents to use. We want to give them some type of support with the current routine going on at home. Also, I wanted to kind of refer back to our website and how we could help you in this. So I'm going to go back to my website. I did take a picture. This is where we're going to go to. Was there a question? Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm going to go back to our website. So I clicked on our website. All of this will be found on the right side of the very beginning page of our website. The service request, request material. So if you got to a place where you're like, okay, this is where we need help, or we need you to come in and support us, support our parents, this is where you would go to ask for our services, and you could contact us. We'll contact you and set that up. So I wanted to let you know that that was there as well. And that's kind of what that looks like, this service request. And this material request as well, that's something that we could provide for you. We will also, kind of like this conference, offer videos, modeling, and webinars. All of our webinars today, or actually this whole week, will be uploaded on our website for anyone to view afterward. You could share these links with your parents, with your coworkers, or anything. So that's going to be there as well. All right, so now to the fun stuff. Visual supports for home routines. So we're good. I kind of just stayed with low tech on this one. Now I do know that we could put all of this on an iPad. We could do some mid-tech things with this, but this I kind of just focused on printing out things, touchable things that the student can manipulate with their hands. So with the home visual supports, we want to try to keep the communication as clear as possible. We'll also want to know kind of what the home rules are and mesh them with our school rules and mesh them with virtual learning, because we have 3 different things that we want the student to do at those times. Following with most IEPs, we want to chunk the routines in smaller steps. So we're not going to say, oh, by the way, we're going to have virtual learning from 7 to 3 because that's what class is like. We're going to kind of break those down maybe into the morning time and then after lunchtime. Also, keep it simple for the parent and at that child's ability level. Model, because we don't just want to tell the parent what to do, we want to show them. I added a link up here just for your reference. If you want to go to that, it just gives you some references to some visual support. I also included in here webinars that you can share. These are just some links that I put together, and this is just something that you can share out. We won't go through these today, but they're all going to show you how to make home supports, how to show them, how to teach them, how to model them. So I just kind of wanted you there. And I didn't just stay with one platform. The first one, of course, is us, and I believe that's Katie. I don't know if you saw hers yesterday, but she has a great webinar on there. The next one is Start Autism. I also went back to Unique because I love their symbol sticks. That's me personally. And I also put a board maker on here too. But there's lots of different platforms, but those are just a few that I put together for your resources. Okay. All right, so this first one, I have a video that's going to go with this. It's going to show you about hand washing supports. This is just an example. There are multiple visual supports for this activity. I know I've seen lots in classrooms, but again, we're transitioning them to the home environment. So this is something that maybe you could send to parents. You don't also have to have these pictures. You could ask the parents to take pictures on their phone and email them to you, upload them to a shared drive if you wanted real pictures throughout the home. So let me show you a video with this happening within the home. Here we go.
Yes, so. Okay. Jump. Strap. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, go slow on your shoulder. You. 15, 18, 19, 20. Stop. Come on. You. Eyes closed. Turn hand. Right hand. Forward. Finger. Muscle. Turn. Trash away. Okay.
My favorite part of that video is every time he knows he's being successful, he's like, yep, yep. I think that's pretty cool. I might even have like a yep picture up there that he could high five it or something like that, but absolutely love it. Do you notice that the visual supports are above the sink and the guidance was given right beside him? And this could be done in the home environment as well. Okay, so now we're going to go to first, then supports. Now, this is just a template, but you can put any kind of icon that you want on there. That's what you're going to make specific for the child. This support is used all the time in classrooms. This is really common within a classroom. It just might not ever been used in a home environment before. This helps your child to understand which tasks to be completed before having access to a preferred task. Keep in mind, the whole idea about reinforcement at home might be a new concept for everyone at home. Maybe they didn't have that reinforcement for a virtual learning situation. It might just been if you do this, then you get a snack, but it was never if you sit down at the computer and listen to your teacher and do some work on the living room table, then you're going to get a reinforcement. So the next video is going to be a first, then next, a real simple way to introduce a visual schedule within the home.
First, you're going to go to the TV player and have the book and headphones ready for you. Then you're going to go to the table and you are going to do an activity. And next, you will come back to the book for the result. When you are done with the activity, you can take it out and behind your clipboard is a folder. And you can carry the clipboard around the area. All right. So, Johnny, take your clipboard and take your clipboard. What is first?
Okay, so we know the transition can be challenging in a classroom, but I think it can also be the case at home. This is an easy way to introduce families to the idea of just using a schedule and reinforcements. So the next picture or example I have for you are rules. This can also remind the child of your expectations. You can provide consistency across different types of activities. Families may want to post appropriate pictures around the house, maybe whatever their rules are, that you could support those as well. I think these are going to be really specific per child, per home. Also, real pictures around the house can be added here as well. So an example of this would be if it's not to pet the dog during virtual learning. Well, that might be a virtual support that needs to be done with the household rules. So this is just an example. The next one, as the kids are at home, a lot these days, our families may want to work on independent living skills like chores or help around the house. Many virtual lessons can support this by teaching the kids to do some of these activities such as sorting, folding laundry, washing dishes, vacuuming. Visuals can represent the steps for household chores to build independence. You always want to include modeling video with this as well. And not all have pictures. If you check out that picture, or if you check out the one on the right on the bottom, that's vacuuming. We do not have words or pictures there. We just have tape and arrows. So I thought that was pretty cool. But we can kind of go over each one of these. At the top, it does have pictures. And it does have finished. This would be a sign language for finished. Over here, this is sorting. So this one has nothing. And then here we're going to have our clothes, just whites and darks. Over here, this is just steps, if you wanted steps instead, because these are just some visuals and some baskets, or maybe you wanted every single step put throughout the house. All right, so this was a fun one that I put together because, of course, it's Halloween. Woo! So this is some social skills at the top. This was just a strip that I kind of put together. The bottom one, it could be a book. It also could promote language during this trick-or-treating time. But again, make it fun. It's not always going to have to be about rules, or you have to do this. You sit down, you got to listen to virtual learning. You've got to do your assignment. I would kind of incorporate whatever's going on during that time period, during that month, kind of make it fun. So they're not only just getting these visual supports if it has to be about rules and regulations and reinforcement, but something fun as well. All right, so the next one is Turn Talking Chart. So this is kind of an example that I got off of one of our websites, but I have a video that I want to show you. This has a family sitting down trying to play a video game. One of the children has Down syndrome, and they have some other children there playing at the table as well. It's their family game night, and she's going to learn how to take turns. I want to show you how they're doing that. Here we go.
Right, are we ready for the game? Okay, let's see. Whose turn is it? Who's gonna go first? Ooh, I get to go first. Thanks, Beth. So if we go around the table, who will be number 2? Jace, that's right. Jace will be second. Who will go next? Number 3. Yeah, Kelsey will be next. And who will be number 4? Andara.
I like this video too because it doesn't have to be fancy. What if you just cut out the numbers 1 through 4 and put them on a table, and then just put your family's name on a piece of paper as well? It didn't have to be fancy. We don't have to go to Boardmaker or Unique and use all this cool stuff. We can just break it down to something simple and use it within our home. This is still a skill that we'd be teaching in our classroom. Whose turn is it? Who's the line leader? Who's getting snacks and things like that? Just taking what we're teaching in our classroom and then changing it into the home environment. But again, keep it simple, sweet, easy, and I think it'll be fun. Okay, next one. All right, so structured time. So structured free time. So in our classroom, if you kind of think about it, we have some centers around, or we may have like a reading corner or technology corner, or maybe an iPad with some music corner. So within the home, because they're there all day as well, we might want to create some mini schedules to structure free time or downtime. So with the virtual learning all throughout the day, the students do have a lot of times in their home. Offering these supports to family to structure this time, I think is going to be really beneficial. So in this example, I kind of like this one because I used real things. If you just wanted to have the first and then on a piece of paper and actually put the puzzle in front of it, put the chalk beside it, don't always have to have pictures or cartoons or real pictures as well. You could use 3D objects to do that. So just kind of want to show you as far as if we're going to do something from 7 to 3 and we need some downtime or structured time, or even if the parent is like, okay, I really like how this is going after 3 o'clock or whenever they deem that the time of virtual learning is done, maybe that structured time, she wants to continue what we're doing all day through their free time in the afternoon, just within their home to keep them on that same schedule. All right. So another great tool that can be used at home with success is a token board. These boards are used all the time during school. As far as the tokens go, you could use coins, pennies, bottle caps, stones, anything that you want here. You could just cut out the red circles and Velcro them on there. These are just examples of some icons that I put on here too. But through direct instruction sessions, you can reference the token board, train families to use the board. And once the student is able to do that, then the board ideally can be used throughout the day with other activities. So that would be our goal, not just education, what we would do in our classroom, but maybe if after that, the parent can use that through daily living skills or independent or whatever needs to be done in the home for that child to be successful and independent as well. And so this is a student that is using I'm working for board that is placed beside him. He looks like he could probably be in that strand C during a direct instruction with the teacher on the computer, and he's putting his tokens on maybe as she's instructing him as well. The idea here is that we first have to teach the token board and then generalize it throughout the day. On the right-hand side, this is a token board that really looks like you could do anything with, or whatever it is that you want your child to do at the end of the day. The point is to wait to get their reinforcements instead of having immediate reinforcement. So if we want to make them get 5 tokens, 10 tokens, whatever it is that the parent sets up, once they get that, then they're going to get their reinforcers. And lastly, this is some social scripts that I put together. This is just another idea for students who have more skills and that can kind of understand a social script. This is going to teach some social skills, behavior skills, problem solving in a story format that is individualized to the student. We should always consider that our students at the very beginning level, if they have enough language to understand what we're putting in our social script. So when putting this together, we need to make sure that they have that receptive language, understanding of language, or what level they're on when we make the story for them. A flip book with common emotions and appropriate ways to respond is an easy tool to use throughout the day. That I feel this, I feel that. But if your kids that can understand the social scripts is still a great tool, one to maintain or to encourage this right now is definitely the mask wearing or the virtual learning rules, because that wasn't anything they had to learn in the past. So if they're having a hard time with wearing masks or not, or maybe even where you're at, they're not having to wear masks anymore, and you have to describe to them as to why they don't have to wear the mask anymore if that's what they choose. So anyways, well, that is all I have. And my last slide is just you could follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Again, our website is down here at the bottom, that they have all the resources set in place. With this presentation, I also put together a Google folder that I put all of the examples that I showed you today, plus about 100 more that go with each one. If you would like to go print those, PDF those, or send them out, share them with your colleagues to help your virtual learning be successful. So, are there any questions? No?
Teresa, there are no questions at this time.
Awesome. Well, I'm all done. I stopped about 8 minutes early, so I hope you have a good break.
All right. Can you go to the very last slide, Teresa, so they can get that session number?
Yes, sir.
And again, thank you so much for your presentation, Teresa. I told you she was fantastic. I think we got some great information there. And to get the CLUs, if you sat through this presentation and enjoyed it like I did, all you have to do is when you click to leave the webinar, you will be prompted with an image that looks just like this. It will give you that URL, ssdla-aim.org, click or treat 2020-evaluation. You go there, you type in your session code, which is 2010. You do a very brief evaluation asking 5 questions, and our robot will email you a certificate. So be checking your inboxes. It should be within PDF format. We'll leave this up for a few moments, and our next session will begin at 3:30, and it will be Distance Learning for Switch Users by the incomparable Patty LeGrand.